Catch the vibes, Vibez TV. It's time. Catch the vibes, catch the vibes. Let's go, let's go. Yeah.
Can you catch the vibes?
Catch the vibes.
Can you catch the
Coming with something new. I don't know if you're ready.
Can you catch the
Catch the vibes, catch the vibes.
Can
Yes,
you
yes.
catch the
Welcome, family. Thank you for watching Vibez TV, where we are always willing to have the conversation you may not want to have, but we are willing to vibe on it. And today we've got a very special topic that we're going to be vibing about, and that's postmodern rape culture. Now you're like, what the hell is postmodern rape culture? But if we look at what's been happening over these last few years, and we're not talking about years ago, 50 years ago, we're talking about right now, today. We want to examine, are we actually progressing in this area, or are we actually regressing? And so today, I got some great guests. We're going to take a look at this thing.
Hey guys, it's Lyric here at Winter Vibez. We're going to be doing a little bit of interviewing in a bit, but for now, back to Chris in the studio.
To better understand this thing, I got some great guests on the show with us today. My first guest is Miss Suma Hodge. She's a behavioral health professional here in Arizona. Miss Suma, thank you for joining us today.
You.
And also, I've got Mr. Lavelle Lewis here. He's a housing stability specialist here in Arizona as well. Lavelle, thank you for joining us today. We're going to get into this thing, but before we do, family, I want to shoot out to my girl, Lyric. Lyric, get used to seeing her. You're going to see a lot of her. She was out at Winter Vibez. That was an event we threw not too long ago. A super dope concert. But while she was there, Lyric was able to ask some of our guests a very special question about rape culture. Check this out, family. Catch the vibes.
Hey guys, I'm here at Winter Vibez, and I'm here with Orlando and Sergio. I just want to know your guys' opinion on rape culture in America. Are we doing enough to make it known, or what is your opinion on it?
I think, in my opinion, the one thing that we could probably do the most to kind of bring awareness to rape culture would probably be just education. I think just by simply educating men and women on, rape culture. I mean, because to be quite honest with you, that's the first time I've ever really heard the term rape culture, you know what I mean, for this interview. So I think just education would probably be the best way to go.
Welcome back, family. Hey, if you guys aren't following Lyric, go follow her IG, La Lyric. But getting back to this thing, we want to get back to talking about this topic that we're on right now. And one point that when I started looking at this topic that I really thought wasn't explored enough, right? And that was child offenders. And Ms. Suma, I know that you have some experience in dealing with child offenders. And my question to you is, what are some of the unknowns, and how can this start so young for children?
Mostly when the children that we have that are child offenders usually have been offended themselves. So they're only acting out and exploring, what happened to them. So working with individuals, young as 7, 8 years old. Yeah, our younger ones, we look at them and try to figure out what happened to you. Kids don't just wake up one day and want to just try and explore the body. That kind of thing doesn't take place in the mind until you start to hit around puberty age. So around 11, 12 years old, 13 is when you start to really explore your body and want to explore other people's body. Right. So when we look at children who are, exploring and touching and doing different things, we start to wonder what happened. So then we want to evaluate and look at the family and that kind of aspects, or those who are around the family and who are around the children often. Sometimes schools, coaches, right. Older students in the class or stuff like that, older people on the sports team. So those kind of things we want to evaluate when we look at children who become offenders.
Some people say, yeah, he's been exposed to this, he's been exposed to that, right? But as far as the natural, it coming from your genes, or I was born this way, how do you feel about that side of it?
That's tough. So when I hear the kind of statement, I was born this way, I don't necessarily agree. We are born to know what is right and wrong. At a certain age, we start to hit where we develop and we understand. Around 7 years old, when you start to decipher something is not true, something is a lie, is when children are able to decipher. Even in court system, they look at children when they're 7 years old to understand what a lie is and what's the truth. And for me, I don't believe that it's necessarily something that you're born with. I know there are some individuals who struggle. The frontal cortex, the frontal lobe cortex holds a lot of our decision making,
Right.
our morals and stuff are held in that kind of area.
Right.
So some people, those who may have like tumors or TBI, which is traumatic brain injury,
Right.
those individuals, their decision making and morals can be skewed. Yes, that is true. Maybe in some areas where your brain is not fully developed, possibly, but it's not something that you are naturally born with, or something that you will find in the DNA that
Now,
we
you
can
know,
pick out.
That's gonna span. That answer is gonna span across a whole smorgasbord. I can see it being smeared. Don't be trying to smear what she said. You heard, she was precise, right? Don't try to smear what she said, right? But I do agree with you on that aspect. I do think that a lot of these things are learned behaviors. It's hard for me to believe that a child that everything we do is by learning. You know, it's building blocks to how these things are put together. And so I definitely agree with that. So Lavelle, I know you got some stuff to say about this, but one question I want to pose to you though, like, because we see a lot of these kids that are committing crimes, right? You know, you see a kid that commits murder and they're locking this kid up in Rikers, you know, just like an adult, charging him like an adult, right? Do you think that these child offenders should be registered as child offenders, even though they're minors?
It depends on the circumstance and things of that nature. So, like, my opinion is I need more of the facts. You know, I could go either way. A theological standpoint is that probably I'm going to lean more towards no.
Yes, you can definitely replace a behavior. You can use cognitive behavioral therapy where you will replace a behavior. So just because it's learned does not mean that it can't be unlearned. But if you're going to unlearn something, you have to replace it with something. So I don't believe that children should be labeled something so harsh as being a sexual offender at a young age. When I've been experienced working with kids that are like 10 years old, 11 years old that have, you know, offended on family members, offended on other people that were around them, children. I had a client that had probably about 7-8 victims under his belt at 14 years old. Do I think he should be labeled? No. The development, as I was speaking of earlier, the frontal cortex is not fully developed until you're 21 years old. That's why the age of drinking should not happen until you're 21.
I agree, right? The part of it that, and I know that there's going to be some people that, and this is why we vibe about this, because we don't have to agree, right? But we need to understand why she thinks this way, why Chris thinks this way, why you think this way, right? And so when I look at it, I'm like, okay, now this kid, he's 14, right? And some people, he's 14, right? He's had 7 or 8 victims, right? We tried the cognitive therapy and the other things. Now he's on a college campus, and now we introduce alcohol. And now we introduce pills, and this same behavior is now altered, right? When my daughter could have had a heads up that this guy was on her floor, and that's why I agree with Lavelle. I would want to look at the facts as a minor. So maybe as an adult, you don't get that benefit of, okay, let's weigh this thing out. But as a child, maybe we will look at it like, okay, this is the first time he's ever done this, or Lavelle, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm in 100% agreement with that. When it comes with the minors, we're more prone to teach. I agree with you on that standpoint. So, but I also agree with you. So, like, we classify a minor as someone that's under 18, correct? So at 17, you're kind of coming more into your own. You start making more decisions, and when
But I knew at 14.
Yeah.
At 12, I knew what was up.
You would think so, but you don't know what these individuals were predisposed to prior.
Facts.
So yes, we do, and it's the environment sometimes too that we have to also consider, and the household, education system, those kind of things we have to take into factor when we make such a drastic label.
Suma, and I'll ask you this, since I can tell you're passionate about this one. She's passionate, y'all, right? What's one tool that you think is underused in helping this situation?
A tool that's underused?
That we don't put enough of it into, that could really be making a difference?
I think just mostly just working with children and listening. I find that aspect that I think that children struggle with the most, especially when it comes to adults, and why children don't often come to adults with situations like that when they've been offended on themselves, is because we don't create an environment where they feel safe and comfortable to come to us. Most of the time we're like rushing them off, like, hush, hush, I gotta do this, or like, let's go relate. We're rushing them off. We don't have time. Right. And we live in this society currently where everything is so fast. Or parents, we're on our cell phones, we're talking, we're on a laptop. We're so busy. So we don't create their environment to allow these children to feel comfortable to come to us because they don't have the opportunity. We need to create the opportunity, create the space for them to feel comfortable to come to us during those moments.
Dope answers. We're going to shoot out to a quick interview that I did out at Winter Vibes with the Color 8 Band in Tullis. Look, if you guys haven't heard the Color 8 Band, these guys are off the chain. Super dope. Shout out to them in Tullis for sitting down with me. Hey, I know you're going to like this, family. Check this out. Catch the vibes. I came in and I just kind of laid it out to the fellas what we're doing this show about, and I kind of just wanted to get their perspective, man, and their input on this topic that we got. So we're talking about rape culture, and I know it's kind of a heavy topic and, you know, things that people don't really want to say, but I really want to get you guys' input on what you think music may be doing to influence or the opposite as far as rape culture goes today. So Ashton, why don't you tell us what you think about it?
To be real, I feel like these musicians have so much of an impact on their followers that anything and everything that they say can be actually taken like literally or seriously. So oftentimes I notice people like in hip hop, sometimes they'll just say shit like just because it sounds good, and people have said it before, you know, like, you know, I'm gonna take her home or whatever, I'm gonna get her drunk and take her home, shit like that or whatever, when in reality, like, that's not okay. You know?
I would say like it all comes down to the objectification of not even just women, but even men, because you have artists like Cardi B who like have certain lyrics that promote, you know, even the objectification of men or whatever.
Well, Bill, if you make a song about big booty bitches, that's all you gonna think about is big booty bitches, no matter how pretty this song is. So, ain't nothing wrong with it. Nobody hate on it. I'm just saying, I like... Yeah, but I have started making, I made an album with me doing lyrics on it, and I was like, what am I going to make lyrics about? And I pretty much literally just made them about experiences.
I really appreciate you fellas just coming in and vibing out with us for a minute. Hey, family, we really appreciate it. We love you. Stay locked. Catch the vibes. Welcome back, family. Shout out to the Color 8 Band and Tullis for that dope interview. I hope you enjoyed that, family. But we're going to switch gears just a little bit. I got another interesting little perspective that we want to talk about on this topic, right? And I'm not sure if you guys at home have heard anything about it, but basically it's a group of people who say that they're naturally attracted to children. It's a biological urge that they have. And groups of these people have been grouping themselves within the LGBT community, saying that they have the same disorder or same condition and should have the same rights.
It's inevitable. It's coming because I think we've opened the door for that to happen.
People have the ability to do or become whatever they want.
Pretty much like what I was saying earlier, I don't believe that it's something that is genetic or something that is you're born with. I believe that some individuals, they may struggle in some different areas in their lives, but I wholeheartedly don't believe in comparing them to homosexuality by any means. I believe that pedophiles, when they know that something is wrong with them and they know that what they're doing is inappropriate, illegal, harming to someone, when you look at an individual within, you know, the LGBTQIA community, those are individuals who are not harming anyone else. Those people are in a situation where both are consenting and consensual adults, and they decide to do something. That's one thing. But when someone is unable to consent to anything, especially in the eyes of a child who does not necessarily understand what they're getting themselves into, to take that right away from them and to justify it with wanting to compare it to a mental health issue is very, very disturbing to me.
What's the difference between a person who has these urges wanting to label themselves this, right? Because a part of me wants to know.
I think it's and you give me a chance to explain it, but I think this is an inevitability. This is where it's going. And the reason being, you use the word culture, right? Mm-hmm. And there's only 3 types of cultures that I know as it relates to absolutes. That's going to be a theonomous culture, theos, meaning God.
There you go.
nomos law. So basically, we govern ourselves after God's law. And the closest thing to that could be naturalism, which is like we hold these truths to be self-evident. You know what I'm saying?
I understand.
America was founded on that. Times were good. We're getting away from that because they're like, okay, no, that's not right. Another kind would be the heteronymous culture, which is heteros, another, nomos, law. So that's more indicative in a dictatorship. The few at the top dictate what goes on at the bottom. So that's over like in the Middle East, things of that nature, where we're going to tell you what you believe, blah, 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 blah. Hey, you can't be homosexual or you're going to die. You can't do X, Y, and Z.
You can only have one kid.
This is what the culture's going to be. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So in America, when I say it's inevitable that we're headed this way because we're in the third one, because we're not theonomous culture anymore. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
And we're definitely don't want to be in a dictatorship or a heteronymous culture, which would be the autonomous culture, where we dictate our own moral rights. You know what I'm saying? So like auto meaning self, nomos law, autonomous. So that's what we are. So the problem with that is when you're dictating your own moral code, you know what I'm saying? So theonomous, God says one man, one woman, right?
Absolutely.
Autonomous says, no, I should be able to love who I want to love. So when we're autonomous, you know what I'm saying?
Anything is okay.
You see what I'm saying? So it's inevitable. So like, wait a minute. If you have the autonomy to love another man, why don't I have the autonomy to love this child?
This is the exact perspective.
So that's the conundrum we're in and the difficulty living in this autonomous culture, because we dictate our own morality.
Wow. I hope you caught that. If you didn't, you rewind it. Remember what he said, because he really dropped some jewels on you, family, about where we're headed as a culture and the main reason why we're bringing this topic up. One thing that I also thought that people kind of overlook, right, are older women offenders offending younger men. Right? And some of the fellas, it's like, hey, no problem. If Miss Teacher want to come on, let her come. But that's not okay. It's not okay, right? And so why do you think, Ms. Suma, that can be such a... See, we all just smiled. Everybody smile. Why is everybody smiling? Why is that funny, right? But why do you think it's that way?
I think that is acceptable in those kind of situations because of the kid, especially being a male. You are going to look like, oh wow, you did a good thing. Like you should be dapping that up. Like that's a props right there to be getting an older woman. But however, it is still a child at the end of the day. And despite whether it's a male or female, it's still a child. And I look at, women offenders the same exact way as I would a male offender. But I think the reason why it's not as, I want to say spoke about is because a lot of males don't, they don't report it. It's not reported as often. In some cases, in some situations, it's even more prevalent with males than it is with females. Absolutely. But women are more likely to report that kind of thing taking place. Because they look at a male like, why didn't you fight her off? Why didn't you just do this? Like,
she was strong.
Yeah, you could have just fought her off. Or, why are you even complaining that an older woman wanted you? Why are you making such a big deal about that? I would be happy if I was in that place. And we get that mentality, and that's why it becomes such a situation that is not spoke about so often.
And we forget to think about that affects men's psyche as well. Yes. Like I've talked to married men who have had sexual experiences with older women when they were 10, 13, 12 years old, and they had problems in their marriage. They had issues with doing certain things with their wife because mentally that was abuse for them, right? So what do you think about that, Lavelle?
What's the cultural norms? Like what we're doing is dictating our moral standards based on entertainment sometimes. So a lot of times it's glorified, you know what I'm saying, a certain way. So again, we use our autonomy in that to say, okay, that's okay.
Right.
Because we set our own moral code.
Right.
We're not like, man, we're not saying this is what's set. So like, we're fluctuating. There may come a time where that's not cool anymore. To where like, okay, if it's a male teacher on a male teacher, because this, you talk about the homosexual agenda, maybe that'll be more celebrated. Because right now, if a homosexual teacher, it's not, if a male hits on another male student, then we don't look at it the same.
No, we don't.
See what I'm saying?
We don't. That's true.
So we're here with it, with our morality, based on our own pleasures and our own desires. So it's like this. So it's hard when you dictate your own morality.
These are all great points. These are all great points. But one other side of it that we're going to take a look at, and I think it's kind of an elephant in the room with what we've been seeing on TV and everywhere, is this whole Hollywood rape culture that we've been seeing with the Corey Feldman interview stuff that he's did, and the Terry Crews. I don't know if you guys see Terry Crews. I appreciate what Terry Crews did, right? Terry Crews and these guys coming out. What obligation do you guys feel that Hollywood has, right, to dispel in this kind of behavior, to change in this type of culture? Suma, start with you.
I think that they have a great responsibility because when you are given a social status, like being a celebrity, there are certain things that become expected of you at those points. People kind of look at them as what should be accepted. And when you have that platform and you're given that platform, it is appropriate for you to do the right thing.
From the arts was never designed to set the precedence for the culture. It's not. It is, but I don't think it was designed. And I mean that by this. Normally you reason, and that's where your argument's done in reasoning, and then the arts were only meant to illustrate the reasoning.
Wow. Not
to set that. So we'll debate the issues, right? Facts. So we're talking about the rape culture. So we're going to come with the facts. We're going to reason on the morals, things of that nature, and then we may go the winter vibes and illustrate it, things of that nature, and then we apply it. And I say that because I'm a father. I don't depend on the television to teach the culture that I want to ingrain in my children.
Can you say that just one? Listen.
You see what I'm saying? So they have no responsibility.
Children are going to do but so much of what their parents say. They can do what they want when you're there.
Agreed.
But when you walk out and I'm in a social situation, my responses are going to change.
Right.
So we're observing what is on TV ultimately, and that's going to play back in the children's mind. It's just natural. How many of things that our parents have said to us as childhood that we went out and did anyway because we wanted to test ourselves to see, how true that may have been. And afterwards, it's like, okay, so she was a little bit right.
She was right.
Possibly.
Right.
However, so yes, I do believe sometimes that you hold a responsibility because you are in that position slightly of authority. Just like we hold teachers to a certain position of authority, we hold police officers, judges to a certain position of authority, so then therefore you have a moral conduct that you have to display.
When you're setting the tone in your home, when my kids know love, they know discipline, but they know love. We're setting this moral tone of what we know to be right or wrong, because you're right, I can't police them all the time. So this has to be engrafted in them.
Absolutely.
So when they're out there in the world, their dad's not policing them. They have the autonomy to do whatever they want.
Absolutely.
But we're gonna talk about, let's understand it.
Man, okay, family. So we're gonna take a quick break from the vibes real quick. I know you guys are loving that. If you're loving it, you're enjoying the conversation, please drop your comments below. Let us know how you're feeling about it. We're gonna come back, talk to Suma and Lavelle a little bit more. But before we do, we're gonna shoot out to a special interview that I did with a friend of Vibe TV's, Sincerely Collins. He sat down at Winter Vibes with us for a quick minute to talk about rape culture in the industry. Check this out, family. Catch the vibes.
Hip hop and just music in general and art is kind of like a gift and a curse, because you can obviously heal and you can hurt with the words that you say. Some of the vulgar stuff that's like been in music and been going on, some of that's necessary in the same type of way that Donald Trump is necessary for the United States, meaning that it makes people aware that it's happening. It makes people aware and not looking away. When it comes to like my daughter, we were talking about off camera, like for me, I just sit with her and I explain things to her if she doesn't get them, or I know she's gonna hear them and she's gonna be either confused or she's gonna need to know what it is before someone else tries to tell her what it is. For me, it's just always been just be transparent. Just be transparent, and it might be hard. It might be a hard pill to swallow. Just like this subject is a hard pill to swallow, but you throw it on them because it's necessary, and that's how I feel about it.
Welcome back, family. Shout out to Sincerely Collins for that dope interview, man. We definitely got to get you back in the studio to sit down and have a chop up with us, family. I know you guys enjoyed that. But one last topic that we're going to talk about before we close this thing out here, right, is we seen the whole Me Too wave that happened. And my question is, do we think that, because I've heard a lot of people talking, do we think that waiting to expose your story, waiting to tell your story can sometimes hurt or is hurting the validity of some of these claims that are coming out? And I ask that because in talking about rape culture, I feel like people who have ill intentions are also noticing and gravitating that there's a rape culture, that there's an opening for this, right? And on the flip side of this, are using it to their advantage.
I'm more prone to be more aligned with that because in the media culture, there's always like a flavor of the month, you know, and you got to be wary, and it's unfortunate for the true victim and things of that nature, and to question motives, because those individuals, like you said, with those motives. Because if you put the facts in front of me, I'm just going to say the Bill Cosby thing, right?
Of course.
You're gonna, you know what I'm saying? When I hear the facts of the story, like you hanging out with this man, you went up to his room, y'all. What you know what I'm saying?
Bill did 30, not 100.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So like you doing all of that, but with this whole rape culture, it's profitable for me to say that you did X, Y, and Z now. You know what I'm saying? And this amount of time.
What are you gaining?
And I will tell you my story, or sell it to the highest bidder. You know, or I'll only share my story with a certain press release, things of that. So that kind of
that's funny. Now, Suma, I like to know. Do you?
Think she about to slap me on the couch.
I know she's mad. Does that make a difference though? if she's doing it, like even if her story is true, but she only is releasing her story because now it's financially beneficial to her. Does that sway your opinion at all?
It doesn't sway my opinion because what happens to someone happens to someone. However they decide to release their story is their decision. Especially if it's proven to be, to be truth. Some people are going to use it for financial gain. Some people do that. And is that wrong? Absolutely. I don't agree necessarily to get some kind of financial gain from that. However, it is their story and it's their situation that has happened to them. Who are we to decide how they should relinquish their story or share the story with whoever they want to?
All right, family, we're going to shoot back out to my girl Lyric out at Winter Vibes, where she had a chance to ask a few more of our guests a special question about rape culture. Stay with us, catch the vibe.
Hey guys, we're here live at Winter Vibes. I'm here with Stephanie and Tay, and I just want to know your guys' opinion on rape culture in America. Are we doing everything we need to do to prevent it?
I believe first we need to start with education. A lot of people are uneducated what rape is and consent is. So I first think we need to tell people what consent is and the different levels of rape. Because it's not just sexual penetration, it's coercion, it's, making somebody believe they have to do this for the relationship to keep going. So I think once we educate people on what it is and start at a younger age.
Thank you so much, and let's get back to the show.
That was our very own Lyric out at Winter Vibes. Thank you, Lyric, for doing a great job. Hey, I want to thank my guest for being on the show, Miss Suma. We really appreciate you. It's been fun. She can, man, I don't know. But it's good. It's all good. It's all love. It's all love. Mel, we really appreciate you being on the show, man. Your perspective was incredible, bro. We appreciate it. We're going to close out this episode of Vibes TV with our Vibes Artist of the Week, Mr. Kyrosol. He put on a super dope concert for us down at Winter Vibes. I know you're going to love it, family. Hey, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube page to see the full footage of what you see on our other platforms. Vibes TV, all caps, space in between Vibes and TV. At Catchthevibez on Instagram, at Catchthevibez on Twitter. Hey, we love you, family. Protect your vibes.